Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the body of Liam Colgan from Inverness, who went missing during a stag weekend, is found in a river in Hamburg. Police investigating the disappearance of this woman begin a murder inquiry. Emerging from court, a man who taught a dog to make Nazi salutes and posted videos online is fined £800. TSB apologises to customers over problems with its online banking service following a computer systems upgrade. And we're with Scottish Ballet as they stage their first major tour of the Highlands and Islands.
I thought it was awesome. It was just amazing.
Yeah, really, really amazing to see something live here in Shetland.
Good evening. German police say they believe a body recovered from a river in Hamburg is that of Liam Colgan, who went missing during his brother's stag weekend. The 29-year-old from Inverness disappeared in February. Ian McInnes reports.
It was the sight Liam Colgan's family had dreaded. A body found this morning in the River Elbe, and although formal identification hasn't taken place, the charity which has been supporting the family say Mr Colgan's driving licence was found on the body, and the clothes worn were those that he had on the night he disappeared.
Heute Morgen um 6:30 Uhr hat dann
German police confirmed the details earlier, saying they are still investigating how Liam ended up in the water. Musician Liam was instrumental in organising the trip to Hamburg for his brother Eamon's stag do. But just hours after this picture was taken, Liam disappeared, separated from the group in the Reeperbahn area of the city. CCTV pictures taken close by show Liam in the early hours of the 10th of February. Since then, the search has continued, with Liam's family visiting Hamburg as recently as last week to follow up on potential sightings. Speaking to me last month, Eamon spoke of his continuing hope for a positive outcome for his brother.
The more people we can reach, I think the more chance we have of getting that one bit of information that we need. I do constantly remain hopeful. I'm quite an optimistic person as it is, so I'm not going to stop being optimistic about this. I owe it to Liam to continue being hopeful and being confident that we'll find him.
German police say formal identification will now take place and that Liam's family are being kept informed of developments in Hamburg. Liam Colgan's family have today thanked all those who've supported in the search for him, both here in his hometown of Inverness and further afield, as they try to deal with today's devastating news. Ian McInnes, Reporting Scotland in Inverness.
Police investigating the disappearance of a woman from Glasgow are this evening searching an area close to her home where it's reported body parts have been found. Julie Riley was last seen in Govan 10 weeks ago. Well, let's cross to our Home Affairs correspondent, Reval Alderson. Reval, tell us about the background to this, please.
Well, Julie Riley, who was 47, was last seen on February the 15th at a supermarket in Paisley Road West in Glasgow. Now, since then, there's been no sighting of her at all, but it was about a week later that her family were told that she hadn't turned up for a couple of NHS appointments. The NHS had phoned them because they were concerned about her. It was out of character. So a missing person inquiry was begun, but on April the 5th, the police held what they call a stop and speak exercise on Shield Hall Road, about half a mile away from here, and they spoke to 216 people and said they'd got a lot of significant information. But I suppose the real breakthrough in this case came on Saturday when a pensioner living in a street behind where I'm standing here found a bone in his driveway. He called police and the search then began because it was a human bone, and the search has been really stepped up in the last few days, Jackie.
And what are police saying this evening, Reval?
Well, the police have given very little information out, but it is clear from extensive police searches over the weekend and indeed this morning with the forensic teams here and a forensic tent in the background that you can see behind me, that they are searching for further clues in this investigation. They have said that Julie Riley, they believe, unfortunately, is dead, but they haven't found a body. They are, however, looking for and seeking information about 2 suitcases, which they say may contain further evidence in this search. So far, nobody has been arrested in connection with the disappearance and what police say is the murder of Julie Riley, and the investigation here in Govan continues, Jackie.
Thank you very much, Rival Alderson there. A man who filmed his girlfriend's pet dog giving Nazi salutes and then put the video online has been fined £800. Mark Meakin from Coatbridge was cheered outside court after he'd appeared for sentencing. You might find some of the content in Andrew Black's report offensive.
Mark Meakin left court today a criminal, convicted of carrying out a hate crime. But he remained defiant, insisting all he'd done was exercise his right to free speech.
It's really, really dangerous precedent to set for people to say things, their context be completely ignored, and then they can be convicted for it. Basically, you don't get to decide the context of what you said, other people don't get to, the court decides to. That's dangerous.
In April 2016, Meakin posted this on the video sharing website YouTube.
See Kyle.
It also featured the repeated use of this phrase.
Dry gas the juice.
Meakin said the video was intended to annoy his girlfriend. Outside court, protesters describing themselves as free speech campaigners defended his conduct.
His sense of humour definitely seems to be dark. He is a kind of an edgy guy, but to insinuate that he's actually promoting hatred against Jewish people I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Separately, Tommy Robinson, former leader of the far-right English Defence League, also attended. Passing sentence, Sheriff Derek O'Carroll told Meakin, "On the whole evidence, I found it proved that the video you posted using a public communications network was grossly offensive and contained menacing, anti-Semitic and racist material." But the sheriff also told him he was a first offender with a low risk of re-offending and on that basis ruled out a prison sentence. Sheriff O'Carroll said this case had caused offence. In a statement released on Meakin's conviction, the Scottish Council of Jewish Communities said this case was not about whether the video was a joke, but about whether it was intended to give offence. It added Meakin himself made clear both in the video and in court that that was his intention, and far from apologising or expressing regret, is now presenting himself as a martyr and has been embraced by the extreme right. Meakin was fined £800 and given 6 months to pay. He intends to appeal. Andrew Black reporting Scotland at Airdrie Sheriff Court.
5 men have been jailed for life for murdering a man in Fraserburgh last year. John Henderson, Gary Martin, Thomas Martin, James Connor and Dean Leach denied murdering Gary Clampett in June. A 6th man, Joseph Martin, was convicted of culpable homicide and jailed for 12 years. The men used an array of weapons, including knives, a machete and a sword during the attack. Gary Clampett's family said he was a loving man who didn't deserve to die.
He leaves a wife without a husband, kids without a father, and a mum and dad without a son. The incident was witnessed by his wife, who still had to go through that experience again in court over days in evidence. So yeah, they are welcoming of the sentencing conviction today and see it as some sense of justice for Gary, but obviously we know it'll never bring him back.
A man has appeared in court in Glasgow charged with murdering his partner in Kirkintilloch. Hugh Baird is accused of killing Jennifer Morgan at her home in Alexander Place last Wednesday. The 39-year-old from Mary Hill in Glasgow is accused of waiting outside the house in a car and shouting at Miss Morgan before stabbing her with a knife. He made no plea and was remanded in custody. TSB has apologised for what it says are intermittent problems with its online banking service following a computer systems upgrade. Some customers reported not being able to make payments, while others said their accounts had been credited with thousands of pounds they didn't have. Lisa Summers can tell us more.
The TSB had been moving customers' data from a banking platform that it had been renting from Lloyds to one that was specifically designed for the TSB. Now, this was well planned, and the bank had informed customers that there would be some disruption to services over the weekend, including no access to online banking. Nevertheless, some customers said that they were still having problems this morning. One man that I was in contact with said that he'd had £13,000 deposited in his account that didn't belong to him, and he'd seen banking details of another customer, and some were still having problems accessing their accounts this morning.
They're very upset, because I cannot get my money, I cannot deposit, I cannot do everything.
I think that the TSB could do better, and in these days of technology, they are such a big organisation, it's actually not really very professional to find a song in this position.
The TSB's headquarters are here in Edinburgh's George Street. The bank has apologised to customers for the ongoing issues and says it's working as fast as it can to resolve the problems. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Ferry operator DFDS has announced plans to end its freight service between Rosyth and Zeebrugge. The firm says the route, which operates 3 times a week, has struggled to meet financial expectations, and the volume of cargo wasn't sustainable in the long term. Last year, DFDS said revenue on the Scotland-Belgian service was less than £12 million. The First Minister has congratulated the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge on the birth of their 3rd child. The baby boy was born just after 11 o'clock this morning, weighing 8 pounds 7 ounces. Nicola Sturgeon extended her best wishes to William and Kate and the rest of the family on Twitter this afternoon. There's a new man at the helm of Scottish football. The Partick Thistle Managing Director Ian Maxwell will take up the job of Chief Executive of the SFA at the end of the current season. More now from our sports reporter, David Curry.
This is the man who'll be the Scottish FA's next Chief Executive. No real surprise. After all, he stood down from the board to apply for the job. Maxwell's not just an admin man. Here he is, scoring for St Mirren, one of 5 clubs he played for, including Partick Thistle, where he became assistant manager and eventually managing director.
You know, Ian's had an extensive playing career. He's also went into coaching and then went in the direction of, in the boardroom or, general manager. And I think the broader skill set that you have, the better understanding of the whole landscape of football.
The Scottish FA's appointment, or rather the manner of it, has its critics.
A lot of us were under the impression that Ian Maxwell was going to get the job before any process had begun. And I just think that for too long at the SFA there has been a lack of willingness or a lack of awareness that there needs to be a greater energy and time spent on getting the right perception with the public.
Maxwell himself says, "I'll work tirelessly to serve all our members, support and lead the Scottish FA's staff and help bring everyone together to shape a better future for Scottish football." And he might have to, because he faces some big challenges, including sorting out whether the headquarters of Scottish football remains here at Hampden Park or whether the SFA moves to Moneyfield. He's also tasked with improving relations with the other big organisation running Scottish football, the SPFL.
Relations between the association and the league have cooled somewhat in recent years, so re-establishing that relationship. Obviously there's a commercial imperative as well as a members' organisation, so working with the commercial departments to get the right deals in for Scottish football.
Maxwell's first order of business could be dealing with the fallout from an interim report into child sexual abuse in Scottish football. That's due for publication in June. It's worth remembering that SFA chief executives tend to be judged on the performance of the men's national team, and they haven't qualified for a major tournament since 1998. David Curry, reporting Scotland, Hampden Park.
It's 18 minutes to 7. A reminder now of tonight's top story. The body of missing Inverness man Liam Colgan has been recovered from the River Elbe in Hamburg. And still to come, the drive to get more young girls playing football. It's a common sight now to see church buildings up for sale, and the loss of a place of worship is often the loss of a community space. But urban right to buy laws are giving people the chance of saving their local churches so they continue to have a community function. Joanne Macaulay reports.
The clock at the moment is the right time twice a day. We're hoping we'll get it to be the right time all the time.
We're working on it.
The keys to what used to be the old parish church in Portobello are now in the hands of the community. The church closed due to dwindling numbers, but local people were determined not to lose this space. So they took it over under the new urban right to buy laws.
We don't realise how important churches and the church halls are to community life across Scotland. They're absolutely vital. Whether you're a churchgoer or not, they're providing that extra space that allows for community to exist. So our feeling was if we don't save this, you lose the space for community to happen at all.
A conference was held in Glasgow today to look at how to give new life to the increasing number of redundant churches.
Some are bought by private owners, some are being bought by their communities. Getting the funding and finding the uses for them. Again, the only limit is your imagination and your drive.
So we thought the switch was here, didn't we?
The group in Portobello wanted to make sure the church building remained accessible to all and wasn't sold off privately, and they have a clear vision for its future.
From cradle to grave, and dealing with the babies and the old people who would just come out for a coffee and a blether, because they're excluded if there's no place for them to go.
Renovation work is still ongoing at this former church, now known as Belfield, and it'll open its doors in a couple of months, offering activities and social space. An example of how a former place of worship can continue to be at the heart of a community. Joanne Macaulay reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
The success of the Scotland women's national team is helping inspire the next generation of footballers. Their appearance at last summer's Euros is deemed by the Scottish FA to be a key factor in higher participation levels. Girls' sessions around the country report a 60% rise, as Amy Macbeth reports.
A chance to get up close to Scotland players, a rare opportunity for any young fan. These girls attend the Scottish Football Association's soccer centres, a place they can go along to kick a ball and, importantly, have fun.
The soccer centres are about a first port of call that's friendly, that's safe, that's fun, that's enjoyable, that hopefully bridges that gap between just taking part and then joining a club.
Before the Euros, there were 28 of these centres around Scotland. Now there are 45, with around 15 girls at each. And the SFA that want to get that number up above 1,000 by the end of the year.
They're hoping success on the pitch can be used to help youngsters fall in love with the game. And after scoring goals for their country, the players take on the role of ambassadors to give the girls top tips and be a visible role model.
You know, when I was younger, there wasn't many that I could really look up to that played professional full time, and I think the game's developed a lot, that there's huge opportunities for girls out there now, so if they can see me playing at Manchester City and playing in big games, then the future's bright for them as well.
These young girls will be hoping their team will make their biggest tournament yet, the World Cup next summer. But does that add to the pressure?
I suppose it does. You know that you've had that experience of going to Euros, and it's something that you want to have again, and what's better than going to a World Cup and knowing that all these people are coming over to come watch you and willing you to play well and to qualify. It's such a great thing to have young girls looking up to you and hopefully to be a role model for them is amazing.
Participation among girls and women is up to 12,000 after the Euros, and a place in France 2019 finals could take them a step closer to parity in the beautiful game. Amy Macbeth, reporting Scotland.
The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service has confirmed more Aberdeen appliances were stood down over the weekend. Crew cover had also to be sent from Dundee. Last week, the Fire Brigades Union warned lives were being put at risk and blamed shortages on not enough staff. The fire service said appliances are taken off the run due to the combination of circumstances. Hotels in Scotland outperformed those in the rest of the UK last year, helped by an influx of overseas visitors and a rise in the number of Britons holidaying closer to home. An industry report recorded the average revenue per room grew by almost 5% in the last 12 months, compared to a rise of just under 2% in England. For most of us, completing the London Marathon would be a considerable achievement. But an amateur runner from Glasgow not only finished the course, he also came in just 25 minutes behind Mo Farah. But there was no time for Jack Arnold to rest on his laurels. Today he was back teaching English at a school in Rutherglen. Our reporter Gillian Sharp went to meet him.
It's an iconic event. More than 40,000 runners on the streets of London. All shapes and types of costume. Among this sea of people, teacher Jack Arnold. He crossed the line in just over 2 hours 31 minutes. Quite an achievement for an amateur runner.
Bullet points. First one, give the quote. Secondly...
No resting weary limbs today, though. It's back in the classroom, teaching English.
Pretty tired. My legs are really suffering today. Obviously, after the race, it was a quick turnaround, and sitting on a plane for an hour and a half shortly after finishing probably didn't do me much good, and got back quite late after a few delays on the flight and things as well last night. So it was probably not the ideal recovery immediately after a marathon, but I think the walking around and things today is probably going to do me some good and help me stretch the legs off.
There's been real pride in the school about his achievement, with Jack Arnold himself surprised to have finished so far up the field.
I hadn't really thought about it before the race either. It was just, I was more concentrating on my own time and just getting round in the heat. But yeah, no, I was really pleased, really proud of it. I'd like to think to be a positive role model and get a few people into running that maybe wouldn't have done it originally. And I think the fantastic thing about running, obviously, is that it's there for everybody. Anyone can give it a go and find their own level, and there's always progress to be made and a lot to be taken out of it.
He plans to be back running later in the week, determined to improve on yesterday's personal best, whether in London again or elsewhere. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland.
The External Affairs Secretary Fiona Hislop has begun a 2-day visit to Berlin, where she'll launch a new Scottish Government hub in the city. The hub adds to the Scottish Government's network of overseas offices. Ms Hislop's engagements will include meetings with the Berlin organisers of the European Championships, which will be jointly hosted with Glasgow in August. Now, they're no strangers to international touring at Scottish Ballet, but their latest tour to the Highlands and Islands is their most challenging to date. The huge show requires 25 dancers and 65 tonnes of staging. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean joined them for opening night.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the crew today, we'd like to welcome the Scottish Ballet class on the Globe and FY2
They're no strangers to touring at Scottish Ballet, and they've brought shows to the Highlands and Islands before. But nothing quite as big as this.
The logistics of bringing us to Shetland and to Orkney and elsewhere are exactly the same as the logistics to get us to Korea later in the year, Hong Kong, Macau. It's all going by sea, by air, there's lots of freight involved, and there's lots of planning that goes into it. And it really brings the whole organisation together to get us here.
The first stop on the tour is Shetland, and the technical team from Scottish Ballet have been here for 2 days transforming the Clickerman Leisure Centre into a theatre. It takes 24 hours and 65 tonnes of staging to create a theatre big enough for the production. They'll have to do this 3 more times in different sports centres across the Highlands and Islands. And what else to take on tour but Highland Fling? A modern take on a classic ballet. Think Trainspotting meets Brigadoon. For the 25 dancers on tour, it's familiar territory, but also a new experience for them.
When you go into the wings, you can see the floor of a sports hall, so it's a bit slippy. Yeah, otherwise, once you're on the stage, you can see more of the audience, which is not normal for us. And they're quite close, but it's cool. It's different.
And the audience on opening night thought so too.
I thought it was awesome. It was just amazing.
Yeah, really amazing to see something live here in Shetland. It was wonderful.
We're actually the local gymnastics coaches, so it was good to see some dance.
Absolutely fantastic.
So
you've seen this hall in a completely different
Yes.
way?
Oh yes. Yes, yeah. We're in here every day.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like this. Yeah.
Would
you like to be in Scottish Ballet one day?
Yeah, when I'm a bit older.
So you've obviously still got a whole tour to do before you can think about the next time.
Yeah.
It could well be your next time.
Oh, no, I can say there's a next time, definitely.
Pauline McLean, reporting Scotland, Lerwick.
And from a Highland Fling to a rather fetching tartan tie, Christopher.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
Average April weather this week, but there's nothing wrong with average.
No.
Could be quite lively, quite sunny at times, but also quite showery. Thank you. Hello there. Some sunshine around today for some of us, but it was in rather short supply. For many, fairly cloudy fare with showers or longer spells of rain, quite cool at times too. The weather for the week ahead is dictated to by the position of the jet stream, the fast-moving ribbon of wind way up in the atmosphere. We're on the colder side of it, where low-pressure systems tend to sit. That means fairly unsettled, a number of April showers. Those could well be heavy, some hail, some thunder in the mix, but out with them, some bright spells and temperatures decidedly average for the time of year. So through the course of this evening and overnight, the rain we had earlier moving its way northwards up towards Orkney. Behind it, a mixture of showers and some clear spells. Temperatures by the end of the night around about 5 to 8 Celsius, but rural parts of Highland, Grampian and the Borders perhaps just a touch cooler. So to tomorrow, and it gets off to a reasonably dry start. Showers in the west, but through the course of the day, those showers will migrate eastwards, becoming a little more widespread and a little heavier at times too. So by mid-afternoon, it's bright spells and showers. In the south, a little more cloud through parts of South Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galloway, South Lanarkshire and the Borders. But the central lowlands northwards, some bright spells out with those showers, but one or two of them could be heavy, some hail, some thunder in the mix. 11 to 14 Celsius, warmest in the east, and a moderate, occasionally fresh west-southwesterly wind. Still some cloud across Orkney, pulling away, heading towards Shetland. Rest of the afternoon into the evening, little in the way of change, still some thicker cloud across the south. And midweek, well, it's weather on repeat. Once again, hefty showers. Some of those could be torrential, moving their way eastward, some hail, perhaps some thunder in the mix as well. And again, 10 to 13 Celsius. And looking ahead towards Thursday and indeed Friday, low pressure still with us, sat to the north. That means further showers at times, breezy, a cool feel, but out with the showers, some sunshine, albeit fleeting. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you, Christopher. And now a reminder of tonight's main news. The Duchess of Cambridge has given birth to a son weighing 8 pounds 7 ounces. The Duke of Cambridge was present for the birth. The couple showed the baby prince off to the waiting media before they headed back to Kensington Palace. The as yet unnamed baby will be 5th in line to the throne and is the Queen's 6th great-great-grandchild. And German police say they believe a body recovered from a river in Hamburg is that of Liam Colgan, who went missing during his brother's stag weekend. The 29-year-old from Inverness disappeared in February. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and join us for our late bulletin at 10:30. Until then, from all the team, goodbye.